Sometimes you have to solve your own problems, which is why it's 30 degrees outside and I'm going for a walk. Now, what is my problem? I'll tell you. I had 4 hours of sleep last night. So backstory, my mom went away for the holidays, and on her way back, her flight was delayed, and instead of getting in at 9, she pretty much got in at 11, and by the time we got home, all of that, it was like 2, right? And so I finally slept around 3, and I had to wake up at 7 in the morning because I had to put my daughter on the bus, yada, yada, yada. So I had 4 hours of sleep. Now, normally for me, I cannot function on anything less than 8 hours. So my body is literally screaming right now, okay? And so why am I taking a walk? Well, personally, whenever I don't sleep, I get stressed out like any other person, and my cortisol levels go up, stress hormone. And what do? I stress eat. I have cravings for all the worst, best things in the world, and it's almost like there's something that has possessed me, and I have no rhyme or reasoning, and I just open the fridge and I want all the things, and if it has to be sweet and it has to be unhealthy, because it's like comfort food and all that good stuff. And obviously that's not healthy. I am on a weight loss journey, and so because I know I know what's going on, I decided that instead of listening to my brain, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go for a walk in cold ass weather, because walking is something that is going to be very, very good for me in terms of bringing my stress levels down, bringing my cortisol down, so that I'm not going to stress eat and mess up all the work that I've done this year to lose weight. So the reason I say that you need to solve your own problems is because for a lot of my life, at least when it comes to weight, I've had to solve my own problems, okay? I'm currently overweight, but for most of my life, I have asthma, and so quite frequently, I tend to need to take medication to help me manage my asthma, especially when I get sick. And so, weight gain was a huge issue, especially when I was a teenager, when at that time they were trying to get my asthma under control. And so if you have any autoimmune disorders, or if you've been on prednisone for periods of time, you know how that can be, the anxiety, the weight gain, the moon face, all of that. And so, throughout most of my life, I struggled with weight because my asthma wasn't very controlled. And so once it became controlled, I then decided that, okay, at least I don't have to worry about that. But I still had this one little problem, which was I had insulin resistance. I was still gaining weight. I had weight in my midsection, love handles, all of that. And so during residency, I found this book called The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung. And he talked about intermittent fasting and all of that. And at that time, it was like pretty early on, and I was like, oh, this is revolutionary. I was in residency at the time, and nobody was talking about fasting. Like, the idea of using intermittent fasting as a way to manage weight was just completely out of this world. But because I was someone who was very much interested in understanding weight gain and all the things that come with it, because it is a big problem in my community, I decided that I was going to learn about it. So during residency, I started intermittent fasting. I tried different protocols, and it worked really well for me. I lost so much weight. I was finally at the weight that I was happy at, and everything was good. Now fast forward 8 years, and I've had 2 kids. I have a business, and life has just been crazy, went through a pandemic, lost the business, all these things. And so then I finally got to a point where I had gained quite a bit of weight, partially because of, stress eating due to all the things that happened in my life, partially because I needed to keep a lot of weight to sustain breastfeeding my kids, all of that good stuff. So I finally decided that it's time for me to lose the weight, right? And so I'm like, oh, let me get back to the thing that I know helps me lose weight, which is intermittent fasting. And so I start fasting, and I do my, I'm making sure that I'm eating in a calorie deficit. I started weight training, doing all the things that used to work. And lo and behold, the weight is not coming off. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And so I had to like really reassess my life and look and see, well, what's going on, And there were two things going on. I had high cortisol and I had high insulin or insulin resistance. And so even though I was fasting and I was eating in a calorie deficit and exercising, the insulin resistance was not going to go down because cortisol was up, right? And so one of the things that people don't realize, and I didn't realize, quite frankly, until I had to do a lot of research, is that if your cortisol levels are high, there's no weight loss happening. Okay, like forget about it. I don't care if you count calories, if you exercise 20 hours a day, all of that stuff. If your cortisol levels are high, you are not going to lose weight. And so I had to like take a good assessment of my life and see where in my life am I dealing with stress and how can I decrease my stress. So my first and biggest stressor of all is that I am a single mom of 2 kids, and that is not just 2 regular kids, but 2 rambunctious, amazing kids. But that's a lot of stress, okay? And don't let anybody tell you different. Kids are stressful. And so there's really nothing I can do in that regards, okay? Like, I'm not gonna dump my kids. My kids are important to me. So I couldn't reduce that stress. So I had to find some other way to decrease stress in my life. One of the things that I decided to start doing was walking. I incorporated walking into my life. It is a non-negotiable now. I walk every single day, minimum 30 minutes. And I usually do it in the morning as a way to prime my day. It's like I wake up and I think about all the things when I wake up, because, sometimes I even sleep and I'm dreaming about all the problems and all the things that are coming. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just take this stress out on my treadmill or my walking pad, or just go for a walk. And so I find that like when I go for these walks every single day, it really helps to decrease my cortisol levels, It decreases my stress. Another thing that I did, I cut back on work. I used to work a lot of hours, a lot of days. And so I cut back on that. I mean, I'm privileged that I'm able to do that because I own my own business. But, being a business owner can be very stressful. And so again, I had to try and take some work off of me. So I hired staff and, just basically decrease the amount of work that I'm doing. So again, now I have decreased my cortisol significantly. So now I can now go back to fasting as a way to lose weight and incorporating that with walking. And finally, I started losing weight, And so that's basically the premise of this method that I created. It's called the fast walk method. So fasting is supposed to help manage insulin resistance, and walking is supposed to help you manage cortisol, right? And so if you're able to do those 2 things, then you will have much better success, in my opinion, losing weight compared to if you go at it from just the insulin resistance side of it. And so now back to my story, I only had 4 hours of sleep last night and my cortisol levels are through the roof, and I want to eat the entire world because that is how I deal with stress. But instead, I am on a walk, 30-degree weather. I actually feel better now, and I'm talking to you guys. I'm letting out my stress, and now I feel so much better. And when I get home, I'm most likely not going to feel like I need to eat, and I'll probably take a nap just so I could catch up maybe 2 more hours of sleep. But for all of you trying to lose weight out there, make sure that you deal with the stressors in your life. I swear to you, half of your problem is the stress. It could be a job, it could be a man, it could be a family problem or a family member. It could be whatever. Like, you need to assess all the stressors in your life and start dealing with them slowly. And I promise you, once you do that, in combination with eating healthy, having enough sleep, all of that, you will lose the weight. Anyways, I created a program called the Fast Walk Method, and it's something that I teach my patients in the office. And if it's something that you're interested in, you can I think I have a link in my bio. But yeah, best way to lose weight.